In 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, met his demise in Sarajevo. His assassination was the spark that ignited the powder keg of European tensions, resulting in the outbreak of the First World War. But what if this pivotal event had never occurred? How would history have unfolded without one of the most significant conflicts of the 20th century? Alright, let's dive into some serious alternate history here. If Ferdinand had lived, the immediate trigger for World War I would be removed. This sets off a chain reaction, changing the outcome of the conflict and possibly reshaping the entire 20th century. Let's explore some of the significant consequences of this alternate timeline. One of the most immediate impacts would be the continued existence of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Without the catalyst of war, the empire's internal issues, including the growing desire for independence among various ethnic groups, would continue to simmer. However, the likelihood of a peaceful resolution to these tensions is low. It's probable that the empire would eventually break apart due to these internal pressures, possibly leading to multiple smaller conflicts in the region. This altered timeline would also affect the neighboring empires, notably the Ottoman and Russian empires. Both were already facing internal instability and external pressures. Without the distraction and justification of World War I, these issues would come to the forefront, potentially leading to their earlier collapse. Now, let's zoom out and examine the broader geopolitical implications. France, Germany, and Great Britain would continue their competition for colonial dominance and engage in an arms race, as they were already doing prior to 1914. However, without the looming threat of a large-scale war, it's possible that this rivalry might not escalate to such a high level. The absence of World War I could lead to a continuation of the pre-war political alliances and balance of power in Europe. Perhaps one of the most significant changes would be the lack of a Treaty of Versailles. This treaty, which imposed harsh reparations on Germany, is widely seen as a contributing factor to the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. Without the treaty, Germany's post-war political landscape would be significantly different, potentially avoiding the rise of fascism and the horrors of the Holocaust. The United States, which remained largely isolated from European affairs prior to 1914, would likely maintain this stance for much longer. Without the catalyst of a European conflict, the US might not have become the dominant global power in the 20th century, and the world order could be vastly different today. And let's not forget about the impact of this alternate timeline on science and technology. World War I spurred rapid innovation and advancements in various fields, including aviation, tank development, and chemical warfare. Without the impetus of war, these innovations might have been delayed, as they were in our timeline, occurring primarily between 1914 and 1918. For example, while planes existed before 1914, their use was limited. The war turned them into crucial military assets, which in turn spurred the development of commercial aviation. Similarly, advancements in medicine and surgery were made during the war to address the massive casualties, such as the development of blood banks. Without the war, these developments might have come later. On the flip side, the war also led to the diversion of massive resources and scientific talent toward military research, potentially hindering progress in other areas. The social and cultural impact of not having World War I would have been profound. A generation of young men would not have been lost in the trenches, which would alter the demographics and social fabric of many nations. The war also accelerated the push for women as suffrage, as women took on traditionally male roles in factories and farms. Without the war, this movement might have progressed more slowly. The optimism and progressivism of the early 20th century might have continued, unmarred by the cynicism and disillusionment that followed the war. People's lives might have been more stable and prosperous without the economic and social upheaval caused by the conflict. The world might have focused more on art, culture, and social reforms rather than nationalistic fervor and military build-up. The absence of World War I would also have a ripple effect across the globe. The collapse of the colonial empires of Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Russia would not have occurred in the same way. They might have existed longer, affecting the borders and the independence of newly formed nations. For example, the modern Middle East, with its borders drawn by the Allied powers after World War I, might have looked very different. The Russian Revolution of 1917, which was in part a result of the strain and instability caused by World War I, might not have happened. Without the war, the possibility of a communist revolution is diminished, potentially changing the course of the 20th century and avoiding the Cold War. As we can see, the ripple effects of Ferdinand's survival are enormous. Entire political systems, scientific advancements, social norms, and even geographical borders might have been drastically different. The world we live in today might not recognize the one that unfolded from this alternate 1914. So what would you change if you could go back and alter a key moment in history? Share your thoughts below. For more videos, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button. Thanks for watching.